And we are live. We're live on Facebook. I'm here with Christine Hamilton, otherwise known as Adina Hamilton on Facebook. Welcome to those of you who might be joining this live right now. If you're just joining, please let us know where you're tuning in from. And if you're watching the replay, put replay in the comments. I am so happy to be back from a very long trip to the other side of the planet Earth. For me, at least, Australia, New Zealand. Had an amazing time, but I'm so happy to be back, and I'm happy to be coming live today with a very special guest, Adina Hamilton, who has dealt with quite a debilitating chronic illness for many years. She's one of the most inspirational people I know, because despite it all, she never gives up. She has fought hard for her health, and I think that's admirable. And she's taken her health into her own hands instead of just letting others dictate how she recovers from this chronic illness. So lots of kudos to her for that. And she's taking it a step further, guys. Yes, she's been on her own health journey, but she's also been committed for a number of years to helping others as well on their own health journeys. So, we're all on a different journey, but you may find some similarities here with certain aspects of Adina's story. And as you hear her tell it, try to identify with at least one part of it. It may be different for you, but you might be able to just find some inspiration in in the approach that she's taken towards her illness. And we want to hear as well about what her plans are, because she's got some big plans coming up, and we can all help her in this way. So let me just open it up to Adina, and just if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and just sharing a little bit about what's transpired, and where you're at currently.
Thank you so much, Eric. Well, it's been a long time since I've gone live. It's been almost a year. I had to take a break. I was so sick that I couldn't even hold my phone up in front of my face and do what I'm doing right now. So I'm thankful that I'm in a position of health in this moment to be able to do this. The quick background for me is I'm a circus performer turned health and wellness coach through Purium. And, my journey really started when I was diagnosed when I was 14 years old with rheumatoid arthritis. It was devastating to receive this diagnosis. I had severe inflammation in all my joints, but mostly in my knees. And this impacted everything. My ability to do the things that I love. When I finally got this diagnosis, they put me on a host of medications. And so that began the lifelong journey of my addiction to pharmaceutical drugs. And I'll get into that a little bit later. So I suffered tremendously all these years with this condition and with these medications. And recently, in the last almost 4 years now, I discovered Purium. And it was really a huge transformation for me because it was the second phase of my healing. The first phase of my healing was movement. And so I got into contortion as a way of working through these symptoms, and stretching my body and stretching my joints. And it really helped my mental health. It helped me physically. I'm learning today that if it wasn't for contortion, I'd be in a wheelchair today with the condition that I have. So it's pretty amazing what movement has been able to do for me. But I took it a step further about 3.5, almost 4 years ago when I discovered Purium. And this lifestyle helped me in so many ways. It transformed my mental health because being on pharmaceutical drugs for 18 years put me through the ringer of mental health issues like depression, anxiety, suicide, ideation. I was also taking these drugs during my developmental years. So my hormones were out of whack. So even my identity it was just such a confusing time for me. And so Purium supported me with the mental health to be able to get out of bed. And that's the first step. You want to be able to get out of bed, make yourself some food and start your day. Forget about working or all that other stuff. But what I found with this lifestyle was I was able to start training more because about 3.5 years ago, I was struggling. My symptoms were getting worse and worse and worse, and I didn't know why. I experienced stability with my medication for 18 years with all its horrible side effects, but things just started to go downhill. And so when Purium came into my life, it came at the perfect time where my medications weren't working. I was battling over 20 different chronic pain symptoms, and it took down the inflammation in my body. It took away chronic migraines, chronic sinusitis, which I was struggling with for a whole year. And I had no idea why or what was going on. And I thought, well, if it can do that for me, then maybe it can help me with my condition. So I decided to just go all in. I'm that type of girl, all or nothing. um, so I went all in and I decided to live this lifestyle every day and eat these foods every single day. And over the 3 years, I started to be able to lower all my medications for the first time in my life. Um, just take a moment because that's pretty intense for me because I'd been trying to get off my medication for 18 years.
Mm.
And I had, excuse me, I had failed at every attempt. When I would try, I'd end up in the hospital. I'd have a severe flare up. There would be major mood swings. My depression would get so bad I couldn't get out of bed. So I get a little emotional when I talk about it because it was a major breakthrough for me. And it was really the gut health component helping me absorb this amazing quality of nutrition. This program even supported me to break different kinds of food addictions and emotional issues that I was working through, because it really is a lifestyle shift. And given my background and being on these medications for so many years, I can assure you that my gut health was terrible. And so was my diet. And I wasn't aware about all these connections, right? I thought eating a bag of chips and candy and chocolate all in one go was fine. And to do that every day was okay. I started to go through these shifts with Purium because Purium made it easy for me to give up these addictions. It didn't happen overnight. It happened over 3 years. It was a natural progression. And every time I introduced a program or like a system of foods into my life from Purium, I dealt with a different aspect of my health, a different aspect of my mental and physical situation and my food addictions. And so I experienced so much transformation, and I'm lowering all of my medications for the first time ever. And I decided to ally with Purium because I wanted to help people. I love circus and I love performing, but more than that, I absolutely love helping support people to achieve better physical and mental health.
Mm.
It's always been my passion and my mission. And I believe that everything I'm going through and have been going through with my health for 18 years is a gift because it gives me insight into all of the people who have fallen through the cracks in the medical system, Western med specifically, that are hitting a wall and they're not getting any support. They're not having their health issues recognized or acknowledged. There's no treatments available, at least in that world, in the Western med. And they're fighting invisible diseases and they're just falling through the cracks. And a lot of people give up during this point. And that's something that I have to give thanks to Purium for, is really like I had given up. I thought I'll never get off these drugs. I'll never get over this thing. And through Purium, I began getting better. I had more clarity. I had more, mobility. I started up my business. Things started really rolling. Things started getting really, really good. And I opened the door again to the possibility of getting over this lifelong illness. And that's about the time, 3 years into Purium, where I discovered that I was misdiagnosed for 18 years. That was a huge shocker. I found that out in April 2023, not too long ago. And by this point, I had come off of all my biologics injections, which I was taking once a week for 18 years, methotrexate, painkillers, sleeping pills. I was on multiple rounds of antibiotics, and I was on prednisone. I'll get into the prednisone in a second, but through Purium, I was able to get off of all of those medications. And the last thing that I was on, it was the final crutch. And this is where my addiction to pharmaceutical drugs really reared its head into my life, was when I had a severe flare up. And I'm here on prednisone, which is supposed to suppress inflammation. And when I'd see my rheumatologist, he'd say to increase my dose. Well, I would increase my dose and things were just getting worse. What happened was my body went into shock with prednisone.
Mm.
It had been on this steroid for 18 years and it wasn't helping me anymore. In fact, my body started shutting down. I had 2 pulmonary embolisms, which
Wow.
I ended up in the hospital with a CT scan and they put me on blood thinners. I was fortunate to find this early enough, but the pain was so severe right around here in my lungs that just a small inhale was such a sharp pain. I couldn't breathe and I knew something serious was going on. I had severe bloating, which also added to my inability to be able to breathe. Like I looked 6 months, 7 months pregnant. My body stopped producing certain hormones that help with digestion. My adrenals were not working fully, and my thyroid was severely impacted, along with many other things. This was when I decided, okay, it's time to get off this crutch.
Wow.
And around this time, I discovered that I was misdiagnosed, and I learned about some pretty incredible treatment available for me. They told me that I have a viral infection, and that through chelation and ozone therapy, they could help eradicate this infection from my body and remove this reactive arthritis from my life. I wasn't ready yet to embark on those treatments because I knew that I had something bigger ahead of me and I wanted to do everything one bite at a time. My journey to healing is really two-tiered. I have this lifelong 18-year infection, but I also have this lifelong 18-year addiction. So I decided to deal with the addiction part first, and I got off of my prednisone after being on it for 18 years. That really tested my faith because when I did that, everything got worse. And if any of you can relate to any kind of health issue or addiction, especially addiction, it's things always get worse before they get better. And for me, they got so bad that I could not work or function for 5 months.
Wow.
I was going through steroid withdrawal for 8 months. All my hair began falling out. I had massive wads of hair. Like if I brushed my hair, I'd have this much hair come out every single day. That's why I decided to cut my hair because when it's shorter, it just doesn't get tangled. And I was trying to prevent more hair loss. I had severe nerve pain. What happens with prednisone is it's a suppressor. It suppresses your immune system and it's a nerve blocker. So my nerves became wired. Like it's like they woke up after an 18-year slumber. So I had severe nerve pain throughout my whole body. A regular chill or goosebumps, what we would call, sent pins and needles of pain throughout my whole back. So having any kind of temperature changes was extremely painful. I had severe dental teeth sensitivity, so I couldn't smile much, and I had to drink everything from a straw. It didn't matter if it was lukewarm temperature. It hurt my teeth. The pain was unreal. I couldn't get out of bed. I had major mood swings. Some days I'd be screaming and crying. I mean, this is a very intense drug that affects all of the hormones in the body. Um, and the nerve pain was so intense, I had bone pain. It hurt to walk. I couldn't flush the toilet. I couldn't brush my teeth. I couldn't button up my own pants. My partner was dressing me. The only place my body did not hurt was in the water. And the only place that I could be was in nature. I could not be around people. I could not function normally. I couldn't interact with people socially. I had severe anxiety. I went through what I would call hell. It lasted 8 months. It got better over time. And, it tested my faith in the beginning because when all these symptoms started happening, I thought, what am I doing? Why did I get off these drugs? Everything, all my joints in my body are swollen. All my bones hurt. I mean, before just my knees were swollen and maybe my hand. Now every single joint in my body. And it's true that the infection was still living in my system and I didn't have any drugs to suppress it. But I didn't want to introduce anything into my system to fight this infection until I was over with the steroid addiction. And so as I'm detoxing this steroid, I'm also dealing with this major, major flare up in my whole body from this infection. And so I'm dealing with all of that. And fortunately, my partner was able to take work off, and we spent the summer just working through this steroid withdrawal. When it came to September, by then I had stabilized for the most part. I was still experiencing steroid withdrawal symptoms, but I was detoxing quite regularly with Purium. This lifestyle makes it really easy to remove heavy metals and all kinds of toxins from the body. And even this nutrition helped me on days where I couldn't get out of bed, make any food. Steroid withdrawal takes away my appetite completely. So I can spend 24 to 48 hours not eating anything and not feeling hungry at all. So just having a quick drink, it got me hydrated, it got me nourished. It was really easy. So it saved me time. And at the same time, it helped detox. So these superfoods helped me detox tremendously until September, where my treatments began.
Mm.
And my treatments is ozone therapy. So it's like a blood transfusion. They pull out 2 liters of my blood, and they do this through a 10 pass. They ozonate the blood, and then they transfuse it back into my body, and then they pull it out again, and they do this 10 times. It takes about an hour to an hour and a half. And at the same time, they gave me a chronic fatigue drip, which is a cocktail of vitamins and minerals, and methylene blue to help my mitochondria, my immune function, because everything was damaged and suppressed by these drugs. So, when I started the treatment, I thought we were going to address the infection. And it turns out, yeah, we're addressing the infection, but we're also addressing this serious damage done to my body from all these pharmaceutical drugs. And it blew my mind. And eventually I started to see that fighting this infection with ozone therapy was pretty easy. Do the blood transfusion, do it once a week, every week for a few months. And all of a sudden, all the inflammation is gone and all the pain is gone, because what ozone does is it has an extra oxygen molecule, and it breaks off when it enters the bloodstream, and it fights off microorganisms like viruses, fungus, bacteria. And so that journey was really easy, but regaining my mental health took 5 months with
Mm.
this treatment, with methylene blue and chronic fatigue drip. And it's been nothing short of amazing. There have been side effects from these treatments. They call it die off. So when this infection starts to die off in the body, you get flu-like symptoms,
Mm.
painful joints, and even inflammation in the areas where the viral activity was taking place. So there were a lot of ups and downs. And even throughout those 5 months of treatment, I was questioning, like, is this working? Because I'm in so much pain. I'm so sick all the time. But then I saw it through. And after 10 treatments, I had my body, my mind, and my life back.
Mm.
And, I started working again. I haven't been able to work contortion because I've had to build back my flexibility and strength. I lost all of that through the steroid withdrawal. But I was able to work other aspects of my circus business, which was phenomenal. So happy to be back into all of that. And recently, in December, everything came back again. And this was very devastating for me. It was very confusing. And when it came back extreme. I had it in my spine, all the way up to my neck, down to my tailbone, through both my legs, my arms, my hands. I was in so much chronic pain and inflammation. And I was sick for 2 months. I thought I had COVID. I thought I had strep throat. Something was serious was going on, because I couldn't function. I couldn't think. My brain fog was through the roof. I was having multiple panic attacks. Depression came back. And I knew it was more than just some flu. So we ruled out COVID and strep throat. And when I went to the doctors, they said, well, just take some Advil and go home. You have what we would call a flu. Well, I didn't buy into that. And I had to follow up with my chelation specialist. And I told him about all of my symptoms. And he said, well, we had your DNA PCR test and your infection came back negative. We eradicated it from your body. This is a huge puzzle piece we need to figure out. And what I love about my doctor is that he doesn't treat symptoms. He goes for the source.
Mm.
And I felt so supported. And what he did was he asked me about my symptoms, and he was really, really curious, not just about the inflammation, but when I told him I'd been sick for 2 months, he said, "What are your symptoms?" And as soon as I started to tell him about my symptoms, he asked me to open my mouth. And I'm thinking, why is my doctor looking in my mouth? The inflammation is in my spine, it's in my knees. And with gloves on, he felt around in my gums. And he didn't press very hard, just a little bit. He said, "Does this hurt?" The pain was unreal.
Wow.
Unless you're pressing the gums, you really don't know because it's just in there and it's neatly tucked away. But he was just touching my gums and the pain was unreal. And
Wow.
he said that he's worked with multiple people with my same infection that have had this all their lives, and just a few are very stubborn and the infection comes back. And what he's found is it's always been a dental issue, either a root canal or wisdom teeth extraction, that is the source of these infections for these individuals. And when they get this infection removed, the lifelong virus is gone from their system.
Mm.
So he sends me to a specialist who understands this kind of infection connection between dental health, oral health, and systemic health. And I had everything you can think of, every scan, every MRI, a cone beam scan. This is a big one because cone beam scan will look at this area in your jaw and it'll splice up the image. So it's like a 3D imaging of this x-ray. Lo and behold, you can see 3 pockets of infection where I had 3 wisdom teeth removed 6 years ago with basically a hole my bone never grew back in.
Mm.
And what happens with this is it becomes, it's like an abscess and it's an infection and it prevents the bone from growing back. And
Mm.
I had everything to make my recovery, um, like everything that could go wrong went wrong. Like I had dry socket 3 times. I had fragments of bone left behind. I needed multiple surgeries. And, I have my immune system was suppressed by all these drugs. So this was a huge factor why my body didn't recover and it just stayed there, this infection. And so what happens is this viral infection I've lived with for 18 years is hiding inside this protected area and ozone therapy can't get in there. So right now my journey is getting surgery to remove this abscess, remove this infection. And there's lots of things in there. So we'll be taking a biopsy, and all these things really impact the health because they leach back into the bloodstream. And that's what happened for me. They removed the infection, everything was fine. And then you give it a week or 2 or 3 weeks, and then whatever's sitting in here goes back into the bloodstream. And we're just having to clean my blood once again. And we were able to find out that one of the infections that I'm dealing with is candida in my head. That's
Mm.
why I was so sick for 2 months. And candida, surprisingly, with a lot of research that I've done, can cause anxiety, panic attacks, depression, um, and severe reactive arthritis,
Mm.
specifically in the low back, hips, and the legs, which is exactly what happened over the holidays. So it's been really eye-opening to see like all the different alternative treatments available to me. And I'm kind of a guinea pig for alternative health. I've tried it all. I'm trying it all. My journey right now is to share my story that first of all, healing is possible. And I think the difference between me or someone else is that I just didn't stop looking.
Yeah.
The extent of how much we can heal, it's unique to all of us. We all have a different story. Um, but we can always improve our quality of life. It is out there, it's available for us, and I really strive to be the message of don't quit, don't give up on yourself. Be open to alternative treatments. Be open to the process. Healing is not linear at all. You're going to take 2 steps forward and then 3 steps back, and you got to be willing to keep moving forward. And that's kind of how it all happens. And to this day, Purium continues to be a huge support. I believe that my resilience through all of this adversity has been because of nutrient absorption, gut health, and quality nutrition. It's really helped me, stabilize my mental health as much as possible, support to, nourish and hydrate me. It's helped with pain symptoms. It's supported me to balance my inflammatory response. It helped me tremendously to overcome steroid addiction and detox. And I'm still detoxing to this day, and I will be detoxing for many years to come because I've been on that drug for 18 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's just, thank you for laying it out like that, because I knew bits and pieces of the story, but the way you put it all together really made me realize what you have gone through up until this point, and it's unimaginable. Um, I think for so many people, their health is like a thousand-piece puzzle. There's a piece here, there's
Mhm.
a piece there, and putting it all together, it can be overwhelming. Uh, where do you find that courage to do it? Because I think so many people would just rather the path of least resistance and say, go to a doctor and say, medicate me and just make it go away. But you took a much harder road in taking control of your health and really understanding the underlying root causes. Takes a tremendous amount of courage. So where do you find that?
The first one for me is my spiritual practice. Um, so as much as the withdrawal period, which was the initial hard time was 5 months, as much as that was the hardest time in my life, it was also the most spiritual time in my life because I really had to disconnect from the world at large. I stopped working, I stopped dancing, I stopped socializing. The only people that were in my life was immediate family, and if friends were asking how I was doing, I made a video, I'd send them the link. I didn't have the energy to tell everybody what was going on. I was so unwell. And I turned inward. I turned to nature, I turned to my spiritual practice. I found a lot of meaning in this process. I knew that this wasn't happening to me, it was happening through me. Um, and I knew that everything that I was gaining was showing me some truths. And during this process, it really made me see all the things in my life that I gave power to or that had more authority over me. Um, and I was able to take my power back. Um, it's just such an interesting process because it's really connected to trauma. And that's a whole other call. But I've experienced a lot of trauma in my life. And I have ongoing PTSD. And I know that trauma causes illness. Trauma makes illness worse. And I had a lot to release through this process. And before everything that I did, um, the the foundation of what I was doing came from a trauma response. And I realized the way I was working, the way I was living, the way I would address my creative projects or like pursue them. Like I was really dedicated and devoted, and people watching me on the outside would think like, wow, she's super determined. But I started to see that I was super trauma responsive. And it's like there are healthier ways to work, there are healthier ways to train, healthier ways to perform. And so it really helped me reconfigure my whole life and look at what's really important and what's not. And I have to say, like, my journey is very holistic because I didn't just look at treatments and nutrition, I looked at my life and I looked at all the things that I was doing that was um, making me live out this traumatic fight or flight kind of response. And fight or flight, it means you're constantly like your nervous system is constantly overactive, and that means your organs can't function. You got to get into the parasympathetic state. You got to get into a calm rest and digest state. So that meant I had to kind of throw my calendar out the window before I took pride that I was so much into discipline and scheduling everything in and really honoring my calendar. I had to do the complete opposite and let go of my calendar and just wake up in the morning and go, what feels good today? What from like my innate intelligence, what do I want to do? What brings me purpose? What feels good? So my spiritual practice was a big one. This journey of, looking at the outside world and that having more authority to me, and then moving inwards and having my inner authority to be more of a messenger for me was a huge part of my healing. Um, and I think another one was during this process, I woke up and I saw the truth about Western medicine. And just being in the system for so long, I see how most doctors have no idea what to do. And they don't know what to do, so they slap on some drugs. And I just had this major awakening where I felt like I don't want to put down Western med in the sense that it really can save someone's life. So let me put that out there first. We need surgery sometimes, we need medication sometimes. That's all fine and good. And it saved many lives. But in terms of when we're dealing with invisible diseases and infections, and we're not getting to the root cause, doctors are just slapping on drugs. And I started to look at the Western medicine as a big circus. Just like they don't
Funny
know what they're
analogy,
doing.
huh?
It's just a big circus and they're all clowns and they don't know what's going on. And so here's some drugs and here's some more drugs. And it's like I was put on these intense addictive drugs for 18 years and neglected by the medical system. And now I had to get over this addiction. And I had all of these costs for alternative treatments just to get over this. So I felt the deception. I felt abandoned. I had to go through all this experience, but it really woke me up to what's really going on in our medical system.
Yeah.
And that was my other drive in getting through this, is that I trusted more that there was alternative treatment available for me. I believed that there was something available for me that would work more than anything that I've received thus far in Western med. And it kind of goes along with rock bottom, right? When you hit rock bottom and this doesn't work anymore, you've got nothing to lose. Now you're willing to do anything. And that was me. I was doing all sorts of energy work and treatments and nutrition. And I was doing whatever it took to find answers. And it was like a puzzle. And I got clues along the way. Things started to make sense. I started to understand my scenario better. And when I was doing my treatments, I'd always hear people in the office talk about the same thing. They'd have some invisible disease. They've been ignored and gaslit in the medical system for years. They were told it's all in their head. They had SSRIs thrown at them. They were given all kinds of labels. And here they are sitting in the clinic. And now they know they have like Lyme's disease and they're getting treatment and they're feeling amazing. And I'm hearing all these stories and going, oh my God, we are those people. We are those people that didn't give up, kept looking for answers. We're in the same clinic, we're getting treated. And it just really like kept me on my path. It kept me really inspired to see that. So yeah, that was a long answer to the
Yeah,
things that have
no,
helped me.
I really
Spiritual
appreciate
path.
the internal approach you took to your condition because the mind is powerful and approaching it with different angles, I think is so important, especially when you're dealing with something chronic.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people out there today that are dealing with might not be the exact same type of viral infection, but it's something else. And finding that source of strength is what they really need right now. And so hearing your story may give them that. As you mentioned, you do have a number of out-of-pocket expenses with the approach or treatments that you're seeking. How are you paying for all this?
Yeah, so up until now, I've paid for it with all my savings and income that I was making from part-time work, as well as my partner and some support from family. And we got this far. I avoided doing a GoFundMe because I was afraid, and I didn't think that I had a significant case, to start a GoFundMe. And that comes from being gaslit in the medical system and not having my symptoms and my situation validated. I was gaslighting myself. But recently I decided, I need the support of my community and I started a GoFundMe campaign to help support me with my treatments. I'm looking for fundraising. I'm looking for corporate sponsorship. So there's different avenues that I'm taking to help support my treatments. They've been quite costly up until now, these 5-month treatments. And right now, these treatments have been extended, unfortunately, because I need to get my surgery in the States. They don't offer what I'm looking for here in Canada, unfortunately. I need to be sedated, and they don't do that here in Canada. And it all has to be done at the same time instead of one surgery, then two, then another, because of my immune system and my history.
Mm.
So, the sooner I can do the surgery all at the same time under sedation, and there's certain protocol that we need to follow, which is very extensive. If anyone wants to learn about the protocol, I'm happy to share. You can reach out to me. Um, So this is obviously going to increase our expense because we need to travel to the States. And of course, surgery in the States is going to be far more expensive. And then when I come back, I also need to continue with the chelation and ozone therapy to continue to detox until my body stabilizes. So yeah, it's going to be costly, but I've already had tremendous support, and it really is inspiring to see how many people want to see me win, and how many people believe in this cause. And I believe I speak for everyone. Doing this GoFundMe is my mission to really give everyone permission to fight for your health, because that's really what it takes. And it takes doing some creative and innovative things and stepping out of your comfort zone for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm gonna post the link to the GoFundMe in this live. So if anyone wants to contribute, they certainly know where and how to do that. And if anyone out there has any ideas or connections to any potential corporate sponsorships, that's another way you can help. You can also share this video, share Adina's story, because there's others out there that are either suffering from something similar or just maybe in a position to help directly or indirectly. So, Adina also is an amazing, and I could truly vouch for this, an amazing health coach. And if you choose to partner with her, especially, accept her mentorship with health and nutrition, and, creating residual income streams in the health and wellness space, then that's another way that you can support her business as well. She's looking for support and she's certainly earned it. And thank you. I just want to say thank you so much for not giving up, for inspiring so many people. I know you still have a long road ahead, but look how far you've come, and you see now that you see that light at the end of the tunnel. At least you have some critical answers that you've been looking for, and you have a sense of direction. It's just a matter of continuing, in that direction and seeing it through. And I know you'll get there. I know with the support of your true friends, your
Yeah.
family, right?
Mhm.
Your community. Certainly you have the support of the Purium community and many others. You will get through this. And I think
Mhm.
you're going to come out, with so many life lessons that you'll be able to pass on to others in future generations, even. So I just thank you for your work. I thank you for your resilience, for your example, and inspiring all of us, including me. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Eric, for offering this opportunity to share my story. I really appreciate it.
Well, absolutely. And we will be providing some updates. So again,
Mhm.
take a look at the GoFundMe. Please share this content. Let's make it go viral. And please, looking forward to some positive updates as you continue on in your health journey.
And thank you so much, Eric.
My pleasure. Thanks to everyone for watching. And thanks again, Dina, for joining. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.